Hello everybody, Jessica Nadav bringing you this week's Dvar Torah on Parashat Toledot. And I'd like to give this week's Dvar Torah from the Refua Shelema of my brother-in-law, Yitzhak ben Miriam. So last week we discussed what innovation Abraham Avinu had brought into the world. And we saw how Hashem had blessed him Bakol, with everything. And we discovered that this meant he had a profound understanding of Hashem being the master of heaven and earth. How the concept of Hashem in being involved in the world was a new concept altogether, and how he was blessed because of the times he was told Lech, to go. First, of course, from his homeland and his birthplace, and another time to sacrifice his son. And I call this the Lech Lecha ideology. And we finished last week with the question about whether Abraham's children had bought in to this Lech Lecha ideology. So let's start with Abraham's first son, Ishmael. We're told that Ishmael was Pere Adam Yadob Bakol. Again, this word kol. Just notice throughout, we're going to find this word kol throughout. Ishmael was Pere Adam Yadob Bakol. His hand, but not his heart, and not him. His hand was in everything, in kol. So he was grabbing everything. Or there's another translation that says he was against everything. He was against this kol. So let's point out here that in this context, the word kol is not used in a context of blessing, okay? Secondly, whether his hand is against everything or grabbing everything, the connotation is not a positive one, it's not an inspirational one. So Rav Moshe Shapiro has an amazing insight. He says that every time we have the juxtaposition of a pe and a resh, like here, like pere, it signifies divisiveness. So here Yishmael was interested in Pere Adam, dividing Adam. What does this mean? So we know that Adam was created to be an amalgamation of the spiritual and the physical. He was brought into the world. He was created to bring the physical and the spiritual together. So what I have called the Lech Lecha ideology, or the Lech Lecha concept, which the Ramban says denotes the kol in the world. Yishmael wanted to destroy it. His hand was against kol. He was against this whole ideology. So he did not buy into the Lech Lecha ideology. What about Yitzhak? So Yitzhak is one of the most enigmatic figures of the Torah. Not much is said about him at all. His story is quite short, and he does nothing of much action. His whole story in the Torah can be divided into 6 different parts. The birth of Yitzhak, Akedat Yitzhak, the marriage of Yitzhak, Yitzhak and Avimelech, the digging of the wells, and finally the blessing of his sons, Yaakov and Esav. And in all these situations, Yitzhak was either passive, with things happening to him as opposed to initiated by him, or he was following his father's actions. He was echoing his father's actions. He gives the impression of being a non-entity. His only achievements seem to be being the son of his father or the father of his son. And I'm tempted to go on with a more mystical explanation that Yitzhak's vague status in the world is because he actually was sacrificed at Akedat Yitzhak, and he ends up inhabiting this kind of halfway through this world and next world in some mystical way. But let's not go down there. Let's not go down into these explanations. But even in Akedat Yitzhak, he is the focus of one of the most heart-wrenching dramas in the whole of Torah, which we even call by his name. We call it Akedat Yitzhak, and yet it's viewed as Abraham's 10th test. Yitzhak is almost irrelevant there, except as Abraham's son. And when we hear this story, of course, we imagine this little 5-year-old boy being marched up the hill by the hand by his father. He's led by his father up the mountainside. But that's not correct. Yitzhak was 37 years old. He was a grown man. And yet, in his own right, he seems to be no more than the sacrificial lamb. His passivity at the Akedah, his passiveness at the Akedah, seems to set the mood for life. When Abraham was full of action and activity, Abraham was a wanderer, he moved. Yitzhak remains more or less in one place. And so we are told in this week's Parashat, in Toledot, Perek 25, Pasuk 19, Ve'ele Toledot Yitzhak ben Abraham, Abraham holid et Yitzhak. These are the generations of Yitzhak, Abraham's son. Abraham begot Yitzhak. And then almost immediately, we're told that when he was 60, Yitzhak's twin sons were born. And so it would seem that Yitzhak's whole history is summarized. He becomes the father of Israel, but indeed, in action, he can be viewed by a surface reading only. He can be viewed as almost redundant. So why is he regarded as a figure of extreme significance in his own right? Who was he? So clearly, as the son of such a great man, he wasn't a figure to be envied, right? Torah and history are full of overwhelming figures, overwhelming fathers specifically, who are so great themselves that they leave no room for their children to assert themselves. Often the enormous footprints left by the father make it virtually impossible for the son to follow. And all we have to do is look at Moshe, at Aaron, at Eli. They leave such enormous footprints that their children can't fill their footprints. So none of these children succeeded in following their father's footsteps. So Yitzhak's problem was to find his own place in the world. The mission that he undertook was to carry on. Simply to carry the baton without dropping it. And this is no easy task, by the way. It's one of the most unrewarding tasks. It's true that revolutionaries have to often struggle against all odds, but it's only through the persistence and loyalty of their successors that their own success is ensured. And so although the original revolutionaries get all the glory for changing the world, they changed the world, it's the next generation who bear the harsher burden, the brunt of the struggle to maintain that ideology, to maintain the change in the ideology, and they do so without the original fire, without the original zeal and ardor. The capacity to persist is at least as important, if not probably more so, than the power to begin. And they have to do it without the original energy, without the original power. So Yitzhak's task is of utmost value and of utmost significance. Yitzhak establishes Abraham Avinu forever. By virtue of Yitzhak, Abraham is made who he is and what he is. Yitzhak is the one who from the outset is cared for, is mollycoddled. He's not allowed to leave the land, for example, not even to look for a wife. And his welfare is of utmost importance. And the reason, of course, is obvious. He's the one who had to make the prophecy come true. In order to fulfill his role in the world, Yitzhak must suppress any urge for assertion or self-expression. His is the power to maintain things in place. The power of stability, not asserting his own ego. His is the power to keep in place what Abraham Avinu had set out. And by the way, this is probably the reason why he is credited with with instituting the prayer of Mincha. In Parashat Chayei which we read last week, we find him praying in the afternoon. And from that we attribute the Mincha prayer to Yitzhak. And from what we said, it should be obvious that this is natural for him. Why? Well, in the morning we're in Abraham land, right? In the morning we're full of energy. We get up, we go. We're doers, we're getters, we go getters. We wake up full of energy. We have the energy to get up and are willing and ready and able to converse with our Creator and thank Hashem. We're ready to say Shachrit, right? By the afternoon, not so much. We're working, we're busy, we're knee-deep in whatever. We have neither the time nor the inclination to stop and dedicate our time to the Almighty. And that's when Yitzhak comes in. This is when Yitzhak's power comes in. Yitzhak is the one who has a staying power. He's the one who keeps things going. He has the strength, the solidity to keep things going. And so in Chayei in Perek 25, Pasuk 5, we're told that Abraham gave to Yitzhak et kol asher lo. Again, this word kol. Remember, kol. Et kol asher lo, Abraham gives him. He gives him all that he had. And with that, Abraham passes the baton on to Yitzhak. He passes on this baton of blessing and the challenge of Lech Lecha to Yitzhak, the challenge of the kol, of bringing Hashem into the world. Yitzhak continues Abraham's Lech Lecha ideology by being a solid man of the world. He becomes a shepherd, he plants vineyards. He understands that Hashem is a source for kol, for everything. He understood that very, very deeply. And so later in this week's parasha, when Esav comes for the bracha, but Yitzhak had already blessed Yaakov, we're told in Toledot, Perek 27, Pasuk 33, and Yitzhak had a great shock. And he said, who had brought me the hunted food before? And I ate Mikol. Again, this word kol. This word is seemingly superfluous in the text. But I ate from everything, from kol. And I blessed him before you came. he acknowledges us. He too was blessed Mikol, from everything, from Kol, from the original Kol. And so we see that God's original blessing to Abraham of Kol, of Bakol, in everything, is passed on to Yitzhak. The knowledge of Kol is passed on to Yitzhak, and Yitzhak acknowledges that he has received his own blessing, or that his blessing emanates from the original Kol, Mikol. And please God, in next week's installment, we'll see the baton being passed on to Yaakov. Shabbat Shalom, enjoy.